Story 1. Flying first class was supposed to be my reward for landing the biggest client deal of my career. After months of grueling negotiations and working 18-hour days, my company had finally closed a contract worth millions. My boss was so impressed that he upgraded my flight home to first class as a bonus. I was looking forward to 6 hours of peace, a decent meal, and enough legroom to actually stretch out. The flight from Denver to Boston was scheduled to depart at 2 p.m., and I'd arrived at the gate early to savor the moment. I don't get to fly first class often, so I wanted to enjoy every minute of it. I was settling into my window seat, 2A, when I noticed a woman with a toddler boarding the plane. The kid looked to be maybe 3 years old and was already having a meltdown about something. I watched as they made their way down the aisle, and I could tell the woman was scanning the first-class section like she was looking for something. When her eyes landed on me, she stopped walking and stared for a moment before continuing to the back of the plane. About 10 minutes later, after most passengers had boarded, the woman reappeared in the first-class section. She was dragging her screaming toddler behind her and looked frazzled. "Karen, excuse me, are you in seat 2A? Me, yes, that's my seat. Karen, I need to ask you a huge favor. My son and I are stuck in middle seats way in the back, and he's not handling the flight well already. Me, I'm sorry to hear that. Flying with kids can be tough. Karen, right, so I was hoping maybe you could switch seats with him. He really needs the extra space up here to calm down." I looked at her 3-year-old, who was currently trying to climb over the seat in front of mine while screaming about wanting his iPad. Me, I appreciate the situation, but I can't switch seats. This is my assigned seat. Karen, but you're just one person. My son needs the space more than you do. Me, I understand it's difficult, but I paid for this seat and I'm planning to use it. Karen, actually, my company paid for this seat, so technically it belongs to whoever needs it most. Me, that's not how airline seats work. This is seat 2A, and that's what's on my boarding pass. Karen, look, I'm not asking you to move to coach or anything. You can have our seats in row 28. They're middle seats, but at least you'll still have a place to sit. The audacity was incredible. She wanted me to give up my first-class window seat for 2 middle seats in the back of the plane. Me, no, I'm staying in my assigned seat. I'm sure the flight attendants can help you with your situation. Karen, fine, be selfish. But when my son has a meltdown for the entire 6-hour flight, remember that you could have prevented it. She walked away, and I thought that was the end of it. I put in my earbuds and tried to relax before takeoff. The flight attendants were doing their safety demonstration when Karen reappeared with her son. Karen, okay, I've thought about this more, and I really think you should reconsider. My son has special needs. Me, I'm sorry, but my answer is still no. Karen, he's going to scream the entire flight if he doesn't get more space. Me, that sounds like something you should discuss with the flight crew. Karen, they said there's nothing they can do because all the first-class seats are full. Me, then I guess you'll have to make the best of your assigned seats. That's when Karen did something I never could have predicted. She picked up her toddler and literally dropped him into my lap. Karen, there, now he's in first class where he needs to be. The kid immediately started crying louder, and I was in complete shock. Karen had just dumped her child on a complete stranger and was walking away like this was a normal solution. Me, what are you doing? Take your son back. Karen, he's your problem now since you wouldn't switch seats. Me, you can't just leave your child with me. I don't know you. Karen, figure it out. She was actually walking toward the back of the plane while her toddler was crying in my lap. Other first-class passengers were staring in disbelief. I immediately pressed the call button for the flight attendant. Within seconds, a flight attendant appeared. Flight attendant, what's the problem here? Me, this woman just left her child with me and walked away. I don't know him, and this isn't my responsibility. Flight attendant, where did the mother go? Me, she went to the back of the plane somewhere. The flight attendant quickly found Karen and brought her back to first class. Flight attendant: "Ma'am, you cannot leave your child unattended with another passenger." Karen: "He's not unattended. He's with this gentleman who has the seat my son needs." Flight attendant: "Sir, do you know this child?" Me: "I've never seen either of them before today. She asked me to switch seats. I said no, and then she dropped her kid in my lap and walked away." Flight attendant: "Ma'am, that's completely unacceptable. You need to take your child back to your assigned seats immediately." Karen: "This is ridiculous. My son needs the space in first class more than this man does." Flight attendant: "Seat assignments are final. You cannot force other passengers to switch seats, and you absolutely cannot abandon your child with strangers." Karen: "I'm not abandoning him. I'm just giving him the seat he needs." Flight attendant: "You need to collect your belongings and return to your assigned seats, or we'll have to ask you to leave the aircraft." Karen: "You can't kick me off the plane for trying to take care of my child." Flight attendant: "We can and we will if you continue this behavior." At this point, the captain's voice came over the intercom, asking everyone to return to their seats for departure. But Karen wasn't moving. Karen: "I'm not going anywhere until my son gets the seat he deserves." The flight attendant spoke quietly into her headset, and within a minute, 2 more crew members appeared along with airport security. Security officer: "Ma'am, we need you to gather your belongings and come with us." Karen: "This is discrimination against families. You're all just protecting rich passengers over children who actually need help." Security officer: "You're being removed from this flight. You can rebook on a later flight if you choose to follow proper procedures." Karen: "This is insane. All I wanted was a decent seat for my son." As security escorted her off the plane, Karen was still arguing that she'd done nothing wrong and that I was selfish for not giving up my seat. Her poor son was crying even harder as they carried him off the plane. The flight attendant apologized to me and the other first-class passengers for the disruption. Flight attendant: "I'm sorry you had to experience that. Some passengers think they can bully others into giving up what they've paid for." Me: "I've never seen anything like that before." Flight attendant: "Unfortunately, it happens more often than you'd think. But abandoning a child with a stranger is a new one, even for us." The flight ended up being delayed by 30 minutes, while they removed Karen's luggage from the cargo hold, but eventually we took off. I enjoyed my first-class experience, though it took me a while to get over the shock of having someone's toddler literally dropped in my lap. Sometimes I wonder if Karen ever made it to Boston, or if she's still at Denver Airport arguing with customer service about her rights to other people's seats. Story 2. I was in Phoenix for a work conference last month. My company had booked me a rental car for the 3-day trip. Nothing fancy, just a basic sedan to get around the city. I'd been driving rentals for years without any problems, so I figured this would be another routine business trip. The conference went well, and on my last day, I decided to fill up the gas tank before returning the car to the airport. The rental company charges ridiculous fees if you don't return it with a full tank, so I always make sure to stop at a gas station on the way. I found a station about 10 minutes from the airport and pulled up to pump number 6. It was one of those newer stations where you have to pay inside if you want to use cash, and I prefer paying cash for gas when I'm traveling for work. Makes the expense reports easier. I got out of the car, locked it with a key fob, and headed inside to prepay for $40 worth of gas. The station wasn't busy, just me and a couple other customers browsing the snack aisles. The cashier was a young guy who seemed friendly enough. Cashier: "40 on pump 6? Me: "That's right." I paid cash and headed back outside to pump the gas. That's when I realized something was wrong. The car wasn't there. I stood there for a moment, wondering if I'd somehow forgotten which pump I'd used. But no, there was my receipt in my hand, pump 6, and pump 6 was definitely empty. I looked around the parking lot, thinking maybe I'd parked somewhere else and walked to the wrong pump. But the car was nowhere to be seen. Someone had stolen my rental car. I went back inside to talk to the cashier. Me, someone just stole my car from pump 6. Cashier, what? Are you serious? Me, dead serious. I came in to pay, went back outside, and it's gone. Cashier, do you want me to call the police? Me, yes, definitely. While we waited for the police, the cashier pulled up the security camera footage on his computer. We watched as I parked, got out, locked the car, and went inside. About 2 minutes later, a woman in her 50s walked up to the car, tried the door handle, then somehow got it open and drove away. Cashier, how did she get in? Didn't you lock it? Me, I definitely locked it. I always lock rental cars. The police arrived about 15 minutes later. 2 officers, both looking like they'd dealt with car thefts before. Officer, can you describe the vehicle? I gave them all the information: make, model, color, license plate number. Luckily, I'd taken a photo of the rental agreement with my phone when I picked up the car, so I had all the details. Officer, any idea who might have taken it? Me, no clue. The security cameras caught her, though. We watched the footage together. The woman was clearly visible, medium height, blonde hair, wearing a bright red jacket. She didn't look around nervously or act like she was stealing something. She just walked up to the car like she owned it. Officer, that's bold. Most car thieves at least try to be sneaky about it. Me, how did she even get in? I locked it. Officer, could be a few things. Maybe she had some kind of device, or maybe the rental company gave out duplicate keys by mistake. The officer took my statement and said they'd put out a bulletin for the car. He also suggested I call the rental company to report it stolen, which I did immediately. The rental company representative sounded skeptical at first. Rental rep, you're saying someone just took the car while you were inside? Me, that's exactly what happened. The police have it on security footage. Rental rep, okay, we'll mark it as stolen in our system. Do you need another vehicle? Me, I just need to get to the airport. My flight leaves in 2 hours. About an hour later, while I was in an Uber heading to the airport, one of the officers called me. Officer, we found your car. Me, already? Where was it? Officer, GPS tracker led us to a vacation rental property about 20 miles away. The woman who took it was still there. Me, what did she say when you arrested her? Officer, that's the interesting part. She claims you gave her permission to borrow it. Me, what? I've never seen her before in my life. Officer, we figured. She's sticking to her story, though. Says you approached her at the gas station and offered to let her use the car. Me, that's completely insane. Officer, yeah, we're not buying it either, especially since the security footage shows her just taking the car while you were inside. When I got back home, I followed up with the police department to see what happened with the case. Turns out, Karen, that's what I started calling her in my head, had doubled down on her ridiculous story. She told the police that I'd approached her at the gas station and offered to let her borrow the rental car because she seemed stressed about getting to her vacation rental. According to her version of events, I was just being a good Samaritan and had given her the keys. The problem with her story was that the security footage clearly showed me going inside to pay before she even appeared on camera. There was no conversation between us, no interaction at all. She simply walked up to a locked car and somehow got inside. Detective, her story doesn't match the evidence at all. Plus, even if someone did offer to let her borrow a car, taking it without any paperwork or identification exchange would still be theft. Me, so what happens now? Detective, she's being charged with motor vehicle theft. The video evidence is pretty clear-cut. 3 months later, I got a call from the prosecutor's office. Karen had tried to plead not guilty, maintaining her story about having permission to take the car. But when they showed the security footage in court, along with my testimony that I'd never spoken to her, the judge wasn't having it. Prosecutor, she was convicted on all charges, got 6 months in jail, and has to pay restitution to the rental company. Me, she really stuck with that story the whole time. Prosecutor, right up until the verdict. Some people just can't admit when they're wrong. The whole experience taught me to be more careful with rental cars, but honestly, I'm not sure what I could have done differently. The rental company later told me that she'd probably use some kind of electronic device to unlock the car. Apparently, it's becoming more common with newer vehicles. What amazes me is that she thought claiming I gave her permission would somehow make it legal. Even if that had been true, which it obviously wasn't, you can't just take someone's car based on a casual conversation at a gas station. The detective said she probably saw an opportunity and took it, then panicked when she got caught and made up the first excuse she could think of. Unfortunately for her, security cameras don't lie. Story 3. I've been working in sales for 8 years now, and I thought I'd seen every type of workplace drama possible. But nothing prepared me for what happened with Karen from accounting. Let me give you some background first. I work for a mid-sized software company that provides customer management solutions to businesses. My job is to handle client relationships, close deals, and basically keep our existing customers happy while bringing in new ones. It's a good job, and I'm pretty good at it. Last year I was our top salesperson, and this year I was on track to beat my own record. The company moved to a new office building 6 months ago, and they switched from individual offices to an open floor plan with cubicles. Most of us hated the change because phone calls became a nightmare with everyone listening to everyone else's conversations. But management insisted it would improve collaboration and communication. My cubicle was right next to Karen from accounting. She'd been with the company for about 2 years, working in accounts receivable. I didn't interact with her much since our departments rarely worked together, but she seemed friendly enough. She was always asking questions about my sales calls and seemed really interested in what I did. Karen, that sounded like a big deal you were working on. How much commission do you make on something like that? Me, I can't really discuss specific numbers, but yeah, it's a good account. Karen, I bet you make more in commission than I make in salary. I should have gone into sales instead of accounting. I just smiled and changed the subject. I didn't want to get into a conversation about money with a coworker. The problem started about a month ago. I was working on landing a huge client, a chain of medical clinics that wanted to upgrade their entire patient management system. This would have been the biggest deal of my career, worth about $200,000 in software licenses plus ongoing support contracts. I'd been nurturing this relationship for 4 months, and we were finally at the contract negotiation stage. The client contact was the operations director for the clinic chain, and she was extremely detail-oriented and professional. Every call with her had to be perfect because she had zero tolerance for mistakes or unprofessional behavior. I had scheduled a crucial call with her for 2 p.m. on a Tuesday to go over the final pricing and implementation timeline. This was basically the make or break call that would determine if we got the contract or if they went with our competitor. I was at my desk 15 minutes early, reviewing my notes and making sure I had all the information I needed. Karen was at her desk too, working on some spreadsheets, but I noticed she kept glancing over at me. At exactly 2 p.m., I called the client. Me, good afternoon. This is calling from Dataflow Solutions. I have our 2 o'clock appointment to discuss the implementation timeline. Client. Perfect. I've been looking forward to this call. I have about 30 minutes, so let's get right into it. Me. Absolutely. I've prepared a detailed timeline based on your requirements, and I think you'll be pleased with how quickly we can get you up and running. I was about 10 minutes into the call, going through the technical specifications, when I heard Karen's chair squeak. I glanced over and saw her standing up, but I didn't think much of it. I was focused on the call and making sure I hit all the important points. Client. The integration with our existing billing system is crucial. Can you walk me through exactly how that will work? Me, of course. Our system uses a secure API that will sync with your current billing platform in real time, so there's no double data entry required for your staff. That's when Karen did something completely insane. She reached over the cubicle wall and tapped me on the shoulder. "Karen, excuse me, let me take over from here." I looked at her in shock. She was holding out her hand like she wanted me to give her the phone. I'm sorry, what? "Karen, I said let me handle this. I'm your supervisor, and I need to speak with the client directly." I was completely stunned. Karen was not my supervisor. She worked in accounting. She had absolutely nothing to do with sales or client relationships, and she was definitely not authorized to speak to my clients. "Karen, I'm in the middle of an important call. Can we talk after?" "Karen, the client deserves to speak with someone in management. Hand me the phone." The client could hear everything because I hadn't muted the call. I was trying to figure out how to handle this without making things worse. "Client, is everything okay over there?" "I'm so sorry, there's just a small interruption. Let me continue with the integration details." But Karen wasn't done. She actually reached across my cubicle and tried to grab the phone from my hand. "Karen, this is Karen. I'm the regional sales manager for Dataflow Solutions." She was talking loud enough for the client to hear, even though she didn't have the phone yet. "Client, I'm sorry, who is this? I was told I'd be working with throughout this project." "Karen, there's been a change in account management. I'll be your primary contact going forward." I couldn't believe what was happening. Karen had just lied to my biggest potential client and claimed to be a position that didn't even exist at our company. I apologize for the confusion. There hasn't been any change in account management. I'm still your primary contact." "Karen, that's incorrect. I'm taking over all major accounts to ensure better service." The client was clearly getting frustrated. "Client, I'm very confused about what's happening here. Can someone please clarify who I'm supposed to be working with?" You're working with me, just as we've discussed for the past 4 months. I'm not sure what the miscommunication is, but nothing has changed on our end." "Karen, actually, everything has changed. I've been reviewing your account, and I think we can offer you a much better deal than what you've been quoted." Now she was not only impersonating a manager, but she was also trying to change the pricing structure that I'd spent weeks negotiating. "Client, this is very unprofessional. I need to speak with your actual manager to clarify who I'm supposed to be working with." Absolutely. Let me get my manager on the line right away." But before I could put the client on hold, Karen kept talking. "Karen, I am the manager, and I can authorize a 25% discount on the entire package if you're ready to sign today." The client had heard enough. "Client, I'm going to hang up now and call your company's main number to speak with someone who can tell me what's actually going on. This is the most unprofessional sales call I've ever experienced." The line went dead. 4 months of relationship building, gone. My biggest potential sale of the year, probably gone. All because Karen decided to play pretend manager. I stood up and looked at her over the cubicle wall. What did you just do?" "Karen, I was trying to help. You were losing the sale, so I stepped in to save it." You're not a manager. You're not in sales. You have no authority to speak to my clients or change pricing." "Karen, I know more about this business than you think. I've been listening to your calls for months." That's not the same as actually doing the job. You just cost me my biggest client." "Karen, they'll call back once they realize I was offering them a better deal." I immediately went to find my actual manager to explain what had happened. His office was on the other side of the floor, and I practically ran over there. My manager looked up when I knocked on his door. "Manager, you look stressed. What's going on?" I need to tell you about something that just happened on my call with the clinic chain client." I explained the whole situation, how Karen had interrupted my call, claimed to be my supervisor, and told the client she was taking over the account. "Manager, she said she was your supervisor." She told the client she was the regional sales manager and that she was taking over all major accounts. "Manager, we don't even have a regional sales manager position. and Karen works in accounting. Me, I know. The client hung up and said they were going to call the main number to figure out what was going on. Manager, this is a serious problem. Let me check if that call was recorded. Our company records all client calls for quality assurance, so my manager pulled up the recording on his computer. We listened to the whole thing together, and his face got more and more serious as Karen's voice came through the speakers. Manager, she's impersonating a management position and making unauthorized pricing commitments. This is grounds for immediate termination. Me, I'm more worried about losing the client. They were ready to sign, and now they think we're completely unprofessional. Manager, let me call them directly and see if I can salvage this. Then I need to deal with Karen. While my manager was on the phone with the client, I went back to my desk. Karen was sitting at her cubicle like nothing had happened. Karen, did you get the client back on the line? I think they're really interested in that discount I offered. Me, you're not authorized to offer discounts. You don't work in sales. Karen, I was just trying to help close the deal. You should be thanking me. Me, the client hung up because of what you did. They thought we were unprofessional. Karen, they'll get over it. Once they realize they're getting a better deal, they'll be happy. 20 minutes later, my manager came back with the head of human resources. Manager, Karen, we need to speak with you in the conference room. Karen, sure, what's this about? HR director, we'll discuss it in private. They walked to the conference room, and Karen seemed genuinely confused about why she was in trouble. I could see them through the glass walls, and it looked like a serious conversation. 15 minutes later, they came back out. Karen looked shocked and angry. Karen, this is ridiculous. I was trying to help the company. HR director, please pack up your personal items. Security will escort you out. Me, what happened? Manager, Karen's employment has been terminated immediately for impersonating a management position and making unauthorized commitments to clients. Karen, you can't fire me for trying to help. I know this business better than anyone. HR director, you claim to be a regional sales manager, which is a position that doesn't exist, and you made pricing commitments without authorization. That's grounds for immediate termination. Karen, this is discrimination. You're firing me because I'm better at sales than your actual salespeople. Manager, you're being fired because you impersonated a manager and interfered with a client relationship. This has nothing to do with your abilities. Security showed up a few minutes later, and Karen was escorted out while still arguing that she'd done nothing wrong. My manager spent the rest of the afternoon on the phone with a clinic client, explaining what had happened and apologizing for the confusion. Fortunately, the client was understanding once they realized Karen was a rogue employee and not actually authorized to speak on behalf of the company. Manager, I told them exactly what happened, that an employee from accounting overheard your call and inappropriately inserted herself into the conversation. They appreciated the honesty. Me, are they still interested in moving forward? Manager, yes, but they want to restart the negotiation process to make sure there's no confusion about pricing or terms. It took another 2 weeks to get everything back on track, but we eventually closed the deal. The client even said they were impressed with how we handled the situation and that our honesty about the employee issue actually increased their confidence in working with us. Karen tried to file for unemployment benefits, claiming she was fired without cause. But the company provided the recording of her impersonating a manager, and her claim was denied. I heard through the grapevine that she applied for sales positions at several of our competitors, listing herself as a former regional sales manager on her resume. Word travels fast in our industry, and most companies called us for references. Let's just say she didn't get any of those jobs. The whole experience taught me that some people have no boundaries when it comes to inserting themselves into situations they don't understand. Karen genuinely seemed to believe that listening to my sales calls for a few months made her qualified to take over client relationships and make pricing decisions. Looking back, I should have been more concerned about her constant questions about my work and her obvious interest in my commission structure. But I never imagined someone would be bold enough to literally pretend to be my boss during a client call. The ironic thing is that if Karen had actually been good at sales, she could have applied for a position in our department when we had openings. Instead, she chose to fake her way into a conversation she had no business being part of, and it cost her job. My manager moved me to a different cubicle after that, away from the accounting department. Sometimes I wonder if Karen is still out there somewhere, trying to convince employers that she's management material, but that's not my problem anymore. Story 4. I've been using reusable shopping bags for about 5 years now. Nothing political about it, they're just more convenient than juggling a bunch of plastic bags, and they hold more stuff. I have a set of 4 sturdy canvas bags that I keep in my car for grocery runs. Last Tuesday, I was doing my usual weekly shopping at the local supermarket. It was around 2 p.m., so the store wasn't too crowded. I grabbed my bags from the car and headed inside to do my shopping. Normal day, normal routine. I filled up my cart with the usual stuff: milk, bread, some vegetables, frozen dinners for busy work nights. Nothing unusual. When I got to the checkout line, there were only 2 people ahead of me. The cashier was a young guy I'd seen before, always friendly. Behind me in line was this woman I'd never seen before. She was probably in her 50s, dressed in a wrinkled sweater, and she kept muttering to herself while looking around suspiciously. I didn't pay much attention at first, everyone has bad days. But then she started staring at my shopping bags. Really staring, like they had personally offended her somehow. "Karen, those bags are disgusting." I turned around, thinking maybe she was talking to someone else. "Me, excuse me?" "Karen, those bags, they're propaganda tools." "Me, they're just shopping bags." "Karen, don't lie to me. I know what those are. You people use those to spread your agenda." I looked down at my bags. They were plain canvas, 1 blue, 1 green, 1 red, 1 tan. No logos, no writing, nothing political at all. "Me, ma'am, they're just regular shopping bags." "Karen, regular? Regular? Those are terrorist bags. You're part of that group." The people around us started turning to look. The woman in front of me glanced back nervously. "Me, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Karen, no misunderstanding. You bring those bags to protests. You use them to carry rocks and bottles." Her voice was getting louder. The cashier looked over with concern. "Me, these are just grocery bags. I use them for shopping." "Karen, stop lying. Those are tools. Those are weapons." Then she did something I never expected. She reached into her purse and pulled out a pair of scissors. Actual scissors. "Karen, I'm not letting you leave with those." Before anyone could react, she lunged forward and started cutting my bags. The scissors went right through the canvas, making long tears in each bag. "Me, what are you doing? Stop." "Karen, I'm protecting America. These bags are dangerous." The cashier immediately hit his emergency button. "Cashier, security to register for. Security to register for." Other customers started backing away. A mother pulled her kids behind her cart. Everyone was staring in shock. "Karen, you can't stop me. Someone has to stand up to these people." She was still slashing at my bags, completely destroying them. Pieces of canvas were falling everywhere. "Me, lady, you're insane." "Karen, I'm a patriot. These bags fund terrorism." Security arrived first. 2 guards who looked like they'd seen everything but nothing quite like this. Security guard, "Ma'am, put the scissors down." "Karen, I'm stopping a terrorist. Look at these bags." Security guard, "Put the scissors down now." She finally stopped cutting, but she kept holding the scissors, waving them around while ranting about my terrorist equipment. The police showed up about 5 minutes later. 2 officers, both looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. "Officer, what's the situation here?" Everyone started talking at once, but the security guard took charge. "Security guard, this woman attacked another customer's property with scissors. She was screaming about terrorism. The officer looked at my destroyed bags on the floor, then at Karen, who was still clutching her scissors. Officer, ma'am, I need you to drop the scissors. Karen, officer, thank goodness. This person is carrying illegal bags. Officer, ma'am, drop the scissors now. She finally let go of them, and the officer kicked them away. Officer, now, what's this about illegal bags? Karen, those bags, they're used by the radical groups. I've seen them on the news. The officer picked up one of the destroyed pieces. It was clearly just a plain canvas shopping bag. Officer, ma'am, these are regular reusable shopping bags. You can buy them at any store. Karen, no, you don't understand. They use these for riots. Officer, can I see your ID, please? While she fumbled for her ID, the officer talked to me about what happened. I explained that I was just shopping, and she attacked my bags for no reason. When the officer ran her information, his expression changed. Officer, ma'am, you're currently on probation for public disorder, correct? Karen, that was different. That was also protecting people. Officer, your probation specifically states you're not supposed to engage in any disruptive public behavior. Karen, this isn't disruptive. This is necessary. Officer, you destroyed someone else's property with a weapon while screaming in a public place. Turn around, please. As they handcuffed her, she kept yelling about how the bags were dangerous and how nobody understood the threat they represented. Karen, you'll see. When the riots start, you'll remember these bags. They led her away still ranting. The manager came over to apologize and offered to replace my bags. The other customers were all talking about how crazy the whole thing was. Cashier, in 3 years working here, I've never seen anything like that. The officer took my statement and said I could press charges for destruction of property. Given that she was already on probation, it would probably mean jail time for her. I pressed charges. Those bags cost me $40, and more importantly, she could have hurt someone with those scissors. What if there had been kids closer to her when she snapped? Later, I found out from the officer that this wasn't her first incident involving political shopping bags. Apparently, she'd been kicked out of several stores for harassing customers about their reusable bags, their masks, their clothing, basically anything she decided was suspicious. The whole thing was insane. Who attacks someone's grocery bags, and with scissors from their purse, like she was carrying them around just waiting for the right moment to defend America from canvas shopping bags? I got my new bags the next day. Same style, same colors, and I use them every single time I go shopping, just like before, because they're shopping bags, not political statements.